Kia ora from Aotearoa. We are having a Guardians of Gaia cosmic tea with the ladies from South Africa in between our new moon and full moon, and just felt to record it in case there are some keys and codes that want to be shared with everyone from the space and place. Because you ladies have been busy down south.
Yes, there's been a lot happening.
That's not an understatement. So please do let us know what you've been up to.
Maybe it feels like there's a context moving into the moment where everything started shifting very consciously in the moment. And that was around, I would reckon, about 2 months ago, where Chanel and I met for the first time in person. And I remember while we were having tea,
Yeah.
there was this, she had a phone with her, and constantly I said to her, there's something happening here. There's something happening here. And we zoomed in, and it was at the most southerly tip of Africa. So it's named the Cape Point. And what we've noticed there is that there was a huge hook of the mother dragon, and the hook was in the point of Cape Point, almost as if wanting to allow for protection or guardianship of that very sacred point. And we realized that is the point where siphoning was occurring. And as soon as we identified and realized that, we started to clear that. And it was within a few weeks when we knew that's where we had to go. And with timelines that were shifting so rapidly at that stage on our planetary sphere, and all the different services that all the different guardians around the planetary sphere was doing, we picked up that there's a lot of timeline shifting and shifting. So initially we wanted to go for a walk at the Cape Point. We were guided, we need to go and walk there. And the timeline shifted, and it ended up being on the 21st, on solstice. And as I say that, my whole body just went into goosebumps. And we knew there was something significant going to occur, but on a human level, I had no comprehension, but just knew we had to be there. We had to be there. And is there something moving into that moment that's still coming up for you, Chanel?
I think also just speaking a little bit more to the golden dragon, and we only discovered that this was this golden dragon between this mountain range between where you and I were essentially stationed. And that was where this mother dragon first came into our conscious awareness. And when we established that this siphoning hook was essentially at the tail end of this mother dragon, it was actually beautiful to see all of the work that needed to happen before that in terms of preparing this mother dragon to essentially be freed from this hook that has been there for who knows how long. And to see the different work of different people across the Cape, of different groups of people, different workers, and it was just so incredible to see the divine orchestration at play, and to see the kind of steps that needed to be taken before this release was able to be done on the solstice. And so yeah, I just wanted to speak into that. And one of the key things that needed to be done was releasing this tourniquet that was placed on the golden dragon, and which essentially was blocking her blood flow, her life force flow. And this was released, I think, a month ago, a month prior. And it was beautiful to see that another South African sister who'd come into our conscious awareness, she was the one that brought this piece of the puzzle, and she'd been actively working with this tourniquet. And that was cleared. And as soon as that was cleared, this is almost like this blood flow was reestablished to this mother dragon, and it was only at that point that we were then able to, and it made sense that we were able to then go to this Cape Point
Yeah.
place on the solstice.
And continuously there was this awareness that there's so many levels and layers. So if we just take our human body, our fibers are, there's so many levels and layers and intricate points of interconnectedness, and the
Yeah.
importance how one, then the other, then the other, so divinely. It's almost like there's this whole orchestration, only this one first, and then this one, 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 and how simultaneously the planetary body was being prepared, whilst individually we were prepared and being prepared, and not only the two of us and the three of us and the collective guardians of Gaia, but also everyone. It's almost as if with every layer there was this release taking place, and then intricately it went to this specific point when the moment was ready, and no moment before that it could have occurred, because of the weaving and the reweaving that needed to happen. So I'm also hearing there was a simultaneous unweaving and then the reweaving that has already prepared the stability for when that occurs, there's something stable in place already. Yeah. Yeah. And so the morning of the 21st came, and I love that you bring in, because it almost feels that is very significant now, is that where Cape Point is here, this is also where Chanel lives. And then there's this whole arc like this. And then here is where I live in this home. So I had to travel from here around this arc to here to get to Chanel and to get to the point. And what's coming up now is this bay between these two arcs that forms this whole arc has been identified as this whole womb of Gaia, etherically. That is the entry point into Africa. And how, my whole body's lit up right now, and how as the, so what I'm hearing is, while the land was being prepared for the hook to be removed, simultaneously all oceanic realms was prepared as well, because all oceanic realms is holding the womb, supporting that womb space, and all the levels and layers. And it's not only oceanic waters that is moving above into all the river systems and the bloodlines and song lines and ley lines of Gaia, but also for all individuals, all of humanity, the animals and the plants, also receiving from that one source point, the source connectedness between land, ocean, animal, plants, and humans. It's the first time that this is coming up. It's not only the birthing of humanity, but it's also the birthing of animal and plants onto the planetary sphere. Oh. And how all those levels and layers then in the oceanic realms. So what I'm hearing is it's Mother Earth, it's Gaia, it's Inner Earth, it's Agatha, and all those water layers, etheric layers, and then in manifest form layers, and then in the different expressions of creation. That is a very
It feels like an entry point for new species that will be entering the planet that have not occurred before.
yes. Oh, that just pinged right through me. Yes.
Yeah, and actually what we established when we were doing the walk as well is that it's an entry point for code within Earth's morphogenetic field. So anything that like any sort of creation that is to be birthed in our reality, that's the entrance point for it.
And I remember as we were walking, Chanel, I think it was when we were still moving from our cars going to the place where we
Mm.
started, there was this mentioning that this is a metamorphosis on a grander scale, in the sense that 675 million years ago was when the first genetic transformation started to occur, when we moved from a single organism to a multicellular organisms on Gaia. And that 20 to 5 million years that has moved since that moment up until 450 million years is where plants and animals beneath, in the oceanic realms started to flourish and be birthed. And that species at that time, and how to breathe below the waters. And then we moved into a new cycle, another 20 to 5 million years, where those animals and plants started to move onto Gaia and starting to form and starting to breathe above the waters. And through each one of those phases, there was this genetic transformation. And as we moved into the solstice, literally moving into the gnosis that the previous 225 million years is when not only humanity was birthed, but all galactic races was birthed, and all animals and plants that needed to be here to support all of that evolutionary paths for all of those aspects of creation. And the entry point of that at that hook place was over this last 22.5 million years, not only been born as a humanity, but the gnosis that there was something to occur that is going to impact the genetics, the very genetics of our humanity, and therefore the restoration of the genetic lines, so that there can be a moment where there will be a rebirth into our Christed expressions. But before that could occur, there was a purity to restore the sovereignty of the genetic lines of all the different races.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hearing the original coding, like actually returning the coding back into its original coherence and therefore its original expression. And this is the entry point. This is where it all begins. And it's interesting because we also had a moment where we talked about it. The name of this bay is False Bay,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. And we've heard it called by another group. I'm not too sure the name of the actual group that visited, but when we both read this, he referred it to as Womb Bay. And when we heard that, it just, our entire bodies were just like, yes, this is actually what it is, but it's been labeled as False Bay due to the siphoning that has been occurring in this area. And I felt like it needed to have expression.
And mapping that on all maps, it actually indicated False Bay. So it literally become the spoken voice, so that all can know that, yet through doing so, giving voice to that which was false.
Mhm.
And that has led us up to that moment where we started to walk from our cars, and we we originally, it was the evening before, we agreed we're going to meet each other at this lighthouse. And on my way driving there, I shared a message and I said, there's two lighthouses, which we weren't aware of. And it's known as the Old Lighthouse and the New Lighthouse. And the first one that I saw, so when you come in, was the Old Lighthouse, and we walked there first. And Chanel, you had a more physical experience on our walk up to the lighthouse, and it feels like I was taking your hands, and we started to walk from the cars to the lighthouse, and it felt so we weren't taking physical hands, but it felt like etherically I was taking hand, and knew in that moment I'm busy experiencing individually and being witnessed and a witness of something significant that was happening right next to me. And then Chanel started giving expression to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very physical experience. I'm still integrating quite a lot from. Yeah. Yeah. And what wants to come through with that, as you've mentioned, that is actually that moment, the kind of key trigger was like the whale energy that was coming through while we were there walking that coastline as well. Sure, and sure. I'm sorry. And a deep remembrance that was moving through me in that moment as that became very, very conscious to me. Yeah. And this like deep, deep, almost kind of coming home feeling, because I felt like as we were kind of doing this walk, it was this emergence point of these different layers that, you've been talking about, Saret, and that we were starting to experience at different moments of this walk. But in this moment, I felt like this call to really allow all of these different expressions of myself, essentially, and all of us to move through me and start to like make itself known. And as we were continuing that walk and sensing, there was a point where we were standing, looking at, the old lighthouse. We were right there by the old lighthouse, and we could see the entire Cape Point. And this is where this physical movement that had started, at the start of our walk, really started to become clear of to what was moving through me. And it was noticing at that point where there were all these different expressions. It was the entire expressions of who we were, across space, across time, across different realms, dimensions, became known to us at that point, as we were essentially looking at our different expressions at this point and feeling all of those expressions move through my body in this complete, almost unity, including the oceanic expressions of who we are. And the invitation there was really to allow these different expressions to flow through with seamless oscillation without needing to understand what was one, what was the other, but realizing that we are it all. And at that point where, we were actually walking back up and looking at essentially all of these expressions of realizing that we are everything and we are all one, and to stand there face to face with all these expressions and allow that to move through and express through this physical vessel was the invitation that I I was being offered in that moment. And it was interesting at the beginning when I was sitting next to Saret on this bench, the resistance, not really resistance, but I guess understanding that we are capable of feeling and expressing and holding so much all at once. And that was, yeah, that was my invitation. And we'll talk about the rest of the walk, but knowing that almost the time has come for these various expressions of ourselves to not only anchor in, but want to be expressed through this physical vessel. And that was, yeah, that was the wider invitation and the energy that was moving through me, and not trying to control it or limit it in any way, and realizing that it is all me, it is all us. And that was, yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful gift, actually. Yeah.
So as we were walking on to this first place where we took a seat, there was this awareness. So I was individually experiencing what was moving through me, and collectively for the whole area around. And all of a sudden I was aware of something occurring within Chanel very profoundly. And as I looked and experienced it, the first words that came out was, it's the first contraction. Allow it, breathe. Picking up on what you just voiced as a bit of resistance, of not knowing there's something huge occurring, but not knowing what it is simultaneously, yet very aware how held we were above. There was a bigger presence within and around us, holding us. And then with every contraction, took a seat. There was just a seat there. So we just sat on it. And now knowing at every place that we sat down, every place where we sat down, it was in a specific direction, having a specific view. And I remember by the second or third seed, and therefore seed is what I'm hearing, and seat, and therefore contraction being had, there was not only this individual process and birthing taking place, like moving through this birthing canal on a physical level. It felt very physical. We were simultaneously walking on behalf of, it felt like. So it was individual walk, a walk having been had together, but also walking with others around us, walking through this canal. And every time being gentle with each other, knowing we have to sit down to experience, and now knowing that in that moment we were grounding a process of contraction of all the different phases of the collective birthing into a new 225-year cycle. 225 million years. I remember saying that a few times. We are birthing a new 225 million years. Yet we were very individual in the process as well. It was beautiful to experience, very personal, very aware of each other, very aware of the collective, and very aware that there's something bigger around us moving through this canal. And with every view, the different anchoring and grounding of that consciousness that needed to move through in that moment, and grounding that and being witness of each other's process. Yeah. And perhaps very important to note, which was quite significant the whole day, the wind was gale force winds the whole time. And there was, at some stages, we can stand our bodies you know, like this, and the wind will just keep us like that. We had, you know, giving no resistance to it. And I think now that I voice that very symbolically, no resistance, but very aware of all this resistance, this wind, not wanting us to move forward, not wanting us to move through, as if there was a greater awareness to not carry on with what you are busy doing right now. We felt that every now and then.
Yeah, and actually, as we were planning to walk to the new lighthouse, do you remember we almost didn't go because it was so windy. We weren't sure if we could actually
Yeah.
walk there. So there was definitely a little bit of interference trying to come through.
And as we were walking, there was this huge tower that made a very awkward noise the whole time. And there was actually wordings on boards that was written there that this is where data is collected. And we felt, oh, there was this awareness, it's the falseness and the recording of all data, and wanting to, you know, we were so aware that there's something significant at this point. Then we became very aware there's something very significant about this place. And then we walked up to this first lighthouse, which is known as the Old LightHouse, which in retrospect is very, very symbolic that we walked from the old to the new lighthouse. And beautiful how as we walked to the old lighthouse, that's where all the contractions has taken place until we landed at the old lighthouse. And then we had this whole panoramic view to this side, the whole oceanic sphere and all spheres of oceanic waters. And everywhere you can see how the land was behind us. And as we were standing there, there was this huge portal in front of us. And I've seen many portals in my life, but this portal was, in comparison, the other portals was like this. And this portal that we were standing in front of was like this. It was almost like this whole if the planetary sphere is this size, it's almost the size of it. But in front of us, this whole plane in front of us opened up. And it felt like we were standing on the brink of that which is very physical, and then all dimensions, which is not physical, in front of us. And then all those galactic beings stepped forward. All galactic races showed up. And in front of each one of those groups stood almost the guardian of that race. And we were very aware of Sirius, of Pleiades, Andromeda, Lyra. They were just all there. And we were standing there with the gnosis that here is something occurring beyond our understanding, yet a very aware sense of it being so. And as we were standing, there was this welcoming, this point in the moment within and outside of all time and all spaces, knowing that there's a let going of what was and simultaneously a welcoming in. And then I think it's important, Chanel, to start mentioning around what you were experiencing. It feels like that wants to move through first.
Yeah, it was in this moment where these contractions that Sarit was talking about, that was a very physical kind of experience, standing there as we were standing in front of this portal, which was essentially this ceremony that was taking place that we were part of. And as we're standing there, you know, knowing that the different races are there as well, but also knowing, and this is where it really started to land and integrate, knowing that the the different galactic races that were all there present for this ceremony that was taking place, these were all expressions of me and us. And, you know, we had this moment of knowing. It's almost like looking at, you know, I'm looking out of Chanel's eyes, but knowing that, you know, my Lyran aspect there is looking back at me as well. And this moment of knowing that we'd almost like arrived, like this is what we had been weaving across, you know, different expressions, time and space, and knowing that we're standing out of this current expression, looking at myself in all these different lenses and eyes. And that's what was really moving through me very, very physically, like this very tangible coming home feeling of these separate expressions all unifying into one in that moment. And yeah. Mm. Really kind of this deep knowing of now is the time. The field is ready, the architecture is ready, the time has come for these expressions, these various expressions of us to start to integrate and oscillate between this physical experience. And this is where this was really anchored, and knowing that this ceremony that was taking place and a coming together that was happening, and almost like humanity now stepping into their role as part of this wider galactic creation that we have been part of but haven't been aware of. And so it was this real, as we were standing there as a human expression, it's like almost stepping into this role and meeting the other expressions of ourselves and knowing that this is all now ready to be expressed through humanity as a whole. And as Saret said, everything that we were going through was a microcosm of the macrocosm. So as much as it was this individual journey, it really was representative of what's moving through the collective. And that felt like a really, really pivotal moment to be standing there and allowing that to anchor in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up until that moment, it felt a bit personal, but in that moment, it felt very collective. It was, this is something different. And I remember when I looked at all the galactic expressions, it's almost as if each one stood like it was visibly, I could visibly see it's like the galactic expression like this, but also then all the different layers. So the body becoming from small to big. It's almost like all their millions of years of evolution also in one moment represented by the one that's standing in front, and all that evolutionary cycle for each one of the galactic races in all their expressions. And then the ones in the front is almost the essence and the essential expression of being representative of that galactic race and each one of them. And I remember what I was very, very aware of is they were just standing in front of us. So that whole portal that was open, they were standing the whole portal full. And there was this awareness that came up that they are not entering into Gaia's realm before something is occurring. And I remember distinctively that both my and Chanel's expression on a human level, together with all our galactic expressions, were standing there in the knowing that something, a recalibration, a realignment, a reorientation was taking place. And we allowed for that, almost as if all the lines and the different architecture and codes that were present in them and present in us had this moment. And if I say moment, it wasn't just one poop. It was long, yet it felt short. But it was about, I would say, 10, 15 minutes, if I have to put a time frame to it, for all of that to take place. And we allowed for that to take place. And then at some stage I became aware, oh, okay, I'm also physically, personally aligning with my aspects, but there's something else that's also aligning through their expressions. And at some moment, I had all these roses in my hand, my arms, and I placed a rose in front of each one of the races, and they received it almost as if this welcoming, and each one of them received it. And I remember at some moment, all of them wanted to give that back, to give to Gaia. So there was this exchange occurring of welcoming and honoring, not only of the moment, but the symbolic sharing of and wanting to give that back. And I recall saying, no, it's yours. And yet we wanted to take it, but this gnosis, it was just symbolic. And then that whole process, it almost felt like now the portal is open to enter, and we were ready to move forward. So there was this awareness of this architectural alignment, as you just shared, and that the perfection of all being aligned in the center point was complete. There was this moment that we knew that was complete for us to move on, as we turned around and knew we had to walk to the new lighthouse. And what that walk has allowed us to do is, for that which we've just experienced, just to integrate a bit before we get to the new lighthouse. And I remember as we were walking, it was a different path. This time the path was gravel, where the other one was on tar. Now that I recall that, tar, there was some tar and there was some stones, but this one was just gravel. And at some stage there was this block that came up that didn't want to allow me to move through there. And I said to Chanel, what do we do? And there was just this, us being a witness to it and knowing there's just this, what was your words?
I think I used interference was my word.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was actually the wind, and this is where we became actually really observant of the wind. The wind was really, really intense because the path walks down the side of this mountain that we were on, and the wind was, you could feel the wind. It was very, very intense, and there's no railings. Like you're basically looking at the bottom of of the ocean as you're walking that path. And so it was a real concern of, can we actually do this? The wind is intense. There's nobody else on this path. And so, yeah, it was just, oh, I don't know. And I think this was also because we didn't see anybody else. It's like, can we actually walk there? And so this was this block. It was this real kind of interference. And then I don't know. We kind of stumbled a little bit. Okay, do we move? Do we not move? And I think we just made the decision of we can do it. We need to go. And so we did.
And from that moment forward,
Mm,
there was this conscious awareness of the sacredness of what was occurring.
yeah.
Very conscious.
Yeah.
And I remember your words, I'm walking home. I'm
Yeah.
home. It was this homecoming feel to it.
It felt like it was such an incredible experience because it felt like this is why I incarnated. And I felt, the same sort of with you, Sarah, and us walking there as well. It was like, you all these different expressions across, time and space and all of that, and knowing that this was the moment where it's arrived, where it's not just the human Chanel, it's all the various expressions of me. And it felt like this is exactly why I incarnated, and everything that was moving through that space and the clearing that was happening and the realignment of all the different layers of the energetic architecture. Like this is why I came. And it was such a profound moment.
Yeah. And as we then walk to the new lighthouse, what I find beautiful is the old lighthouse, you can physically walk up to the lighthouse and touch it. The new lighthouse, we just have view of it. So it was literally, as we got to the point and you looked down, it looked very small in size. And it was at the very bottom of the land, where the land and the ocean touches each other. There stood this lighthouse, but there's no path to it. It is there, and we just had sight to it. And as we stood there, there was almost a new reconfiguration taking place, but more smoothly, more gently. And that, for the first time, I remember using the words, it feels very loving. It felt very loving. And it felt like this is how home feels like. And at that stage, there was also this awareness that the individual galactic expressions and races was also home. I had the sense that as much as I was feeling home, they felt home and welcomed as well. So I'm not sure from that perspective, from the old to the new lighthouse, what has occurred for them. I was very aware of, we were so busy with this wind resistance and walking to the new lighthouse that now I'm thinking symbolically, the resistance of the wind was perhaps parts of ourselves that still needed to, loosen up to be welcomed into that moment of softness. Grace is the only word that comes up now. There was grace. So gracefully and lovingly and softly and gently, the new was just there. It was just there, and we're physically in it, we're energetically in it. And as we were standing there, I said to Chanel, look there. And there was the point, the exact point of my physical home on the other side of the bay. Direct view. And I said, look how I'm standing in my home, looking out at the window, which I've been doing the every day since I moved into this home, looking at that point, knowing that there's something. And that moment was very significant. It was connecting the two places of the bay. And what comes up in this moment is the weaving that has been occurring from this side started to move up, which has formed this whole energetic womb, new crystalline weaving. Because all of a sudden it's just there and it's done. And we were aware that this is Gaia's womb right in front of us here, the whole womb. And it's as if that whole portal that was opening was now in the bay. As if the bay was connected to the portal. I just saw that now. I didn't realize that then. The whole bay became this
Yeah, I'm
portal.
watching that with you.
This
When
this
you first
portal.
mentioned the portal, I saw it was a multi-galactic gateway. And as you were describing it with the womb, then literally I was watching it as an overlay of the womb. So opening the multi-galactic gateway into the womb of the planetary body.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Mm. Mm.
We sensed it, but it's only now so by voicing it.
And it feels like the image that I get now is almost like an umbilical cord, almost like reconnecting us to, to our kind of rightful place, to the wider
To our
galactic.
galactic origins.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like a connection point, and it feels like this is the ceremony that was there and all these different expressions. It's like we've clicked back into place, and this is why it was a homecoming for us, but for all the different expressions, because it's a restoration of the
Yeah.
original architecture at a galactic level.
And very much organically. There was continuously this awareness. All that is not organic needed to first, as we were walking, cleared for us, cleared for the collective before this. And what I'm hearing now, when you give expression to that, Leanne, is there was some still clearing that needed to happen before we now give the name to the gnosis of what that was. So what we've been working through as individuals and us as a collective, but also the greater collective, all that's been occurring over this last 6 days was this whole process of clearing everything so that this connection point and this umbilical cord, and I'm hearing the flow of the umbilic fluid to be reconnected into the galactic origin and back into the cosmic heart, is it needed to be completely cleared and organic, and to ensure the sovereignty of that, so that all the birthings, not only from our galactic expressions, but also that of animals and plants and minerals and crystals, for all of that to be birthed through this sovereign organic birth process, which only occurs where there's full alignment in that either animal or plant or human or mineral or crystal. And as soon as that happened, because there was a deep awareness, very aware that nothing moves through there if it's not completely aligned, completely organic, and completely sovereign. Only then you'll be able to move into that expression of Gaia. Mm. And then at some moments I saw myself swimming in those waters, and there was a coming home of whales in their crystalline expression, and galactic whales started moving through that womb, and they all just started moving through, but with the awareness that they are home, but very aware of honoring Gaia that has been preparing them, preparing us, preparing the waters, preparing the land, prepared for the moment for that to occur. Yeah.
What's coming to my mind now as well is also Theia. Yeah, so this is, obviously the work that we're doing with Theia for the past, I would say, it's only been 2 months since we've met. It has. Yeah, the last 2 months, and it feels like this as well was a re-anchoring of the keys of Theia's heart. And it was done simultaneously while all of this was going on, this reconnection point of Theia back into the original architecture. And it feels, yeah, important to give expression to that as well, as she reconnects.
And what comes up in the moment is, like with that womb, like with humanity, like with Gaia, Theia, New Earth, Agatha. I remember there was a moment where we said it's one Earth. And all of those layers of her also weaving and integrating and merging and going through this whole holographic recalibration and alignment almost. And in the center of that water womb, and in the center of the planetary body, and in the center of the heart of humanity, and the center of the galaxy, is this crystal heart, and the alignment of the different hearts. And at the alignment point, it's almost like becoming one heart. So it's almost all these different heart portals becoming one heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like just grounding that through. important to start sharing the significance of what occurred. So this was in the morning of the solstice, and I was guided a week or 2 or 3 before that on solstice I need to be at this side. So back on, if you go through the arc, on this side where my home is, there's this very, the word that's coming up, sovereign rock, but this whole Hunclip area. And what I just want to mention right now, Leanne, is when you shared your photos of Spirit Bay, there was a photo of a rock that looks just like Hunclip. And it was reflecting into a pool of water, the photo. There was, I don't know if you can recall that rock and that
That's the
water.
sacred mountain at Kapawairua.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I saw Hunclip, because I also got a photo of Hunclip with the water in front of it. And I thought, oh, but that is Hunclip when I saw it, the one at Spirit Bay. And I thought, oh, it's the same place. And so I was guided a few weeks before solstice that I needed to be at Hunclip. I'm going to walk on Hunclip on the day of solstice. So as the timeline started to align, I was giving expression that I will do that after the walk. Yet, when I got home, I was guided to do it at sunset. And my whole body just went into goosebumps. And as the sun started to set, and I was also guided to stay in my home. So when I got home, I had to look back to Cape Point. So there was something just anchoring and pinging back into that place, completing so what I'm seeing now, the upper arc was completed to the bottom arc. I'm seeing that completion of that sphere there. So I got home, I rested some, I started with my integration, I had something to eat. And as the sun started to set, I went to Hunclip, and my human aspect wanted to go to just in front of Hunclip. There's a bay, and its name is Moon Bay. And as you stand on the waters and look at on the sand and look at the waters, and you turn around, there's Hunclip. So I wanted to walk on the beach, my human self, to experience physically on the soles of my feet, the sand and the water. And I was kept being drawn to Hunclip itself. And then I wanted to go, and then I remembered, now get off your own way. Go there where you need to be. And as I walked up to Hunclip, there was this rock. And so I walked to the rock, and then Hunclip is just behind the rock. There's many rocks. This one rock was calling me, and I saw there's almost like a riff in the middle of the rock, and 2 little imprints almost like this. And I instinctively walked up to the rock. I turned around and sat on it, or stood on it. How do you say that? And I just felt how my whole spine was aligning with that place there. It was very comfortable. It felt like a pillow almost. And I stood there with my sight on the sun busy setting. And then I stepped forward and I looked up, and I saw I was in right alignment with Hunclip as well. So I was guided to stand next to this rock. And as the sun was setting, there was awareness of Cape Point with me the whole time. And as the sphere started to move through, I saw my Earth star and my Soul star gradually, it's almost like as if the sun was setting like that. It was as if the Earth star, if I want to take it like this, as the sun was setting, it's like the Earth star was being filled like this with sun gradually. And the same with the soul star. And in that moment, there was no awareness. I was just aware that I had to be present to this which was occurring. And and I needed to be aware of my spine, specifically on that place in the rock with hung clip here and the sun in front of me and my feet on the ground. I was very aware of the groundedness. And then all of a sudden, the same sun moving through there was also in the soul star. And as I saw that alignment and what was moving through the spinal cord, I also saw the earth star of Gaia and the soul star of Gaia receiving that same sun. But the awareness started at the earth star. And I saw all the galactic races again and all the earth stars beneath each one of those races, and those aspects of self and collective started to it's like gradually moving into the same soul star place in Gaia. And so I was aware of my own soul star, but the one of Gaia, something different was happening. And all those different aspects started moving into place. And as that was occurring, I saw this movement started to move up. But the first time I heard the words cosmic mother or divine feminine, cosmic father or divine masculine, and cosmic child, divine child, came in. And then I started seeing this weaving, but not this time, that it was not as like a unified flow. It was a trinitized flow. So 3 lines flowing through and up the spinal cord, moving through all energy centers of Gaia and all energy centers of my own physical expression. And it moved into the crown, and that's where the sun setting started to set through the crown, but actually went down then, when both Earth Star and Soul Star has moved through the sun setting and the moving of. And the words that came to me is shifting from a unified presence to a trinitized presence, and grounding and anchoring that from the Earth Star to the Soul Star through this spinal cord and flow and circulation. And I'm guided to stop here. Ooh. Hmm. And as we were at Cape Point, those words came in first there. I saw this angelic wings, so angelic wings, but huge, started to move forward and backwards. That was still at Cape Point. And here, at this Punklip rock, those wings started flowing more effortlessly. And the words that came was the birthing of angelic humanity that was grounded in that place, the architecture of that. Phew. So what's coming now is at the soul star, I'm seeing just as different spheres, but from smaller going a little bit broader, and I'm seeing that arc again. And that circulation moving down this way, in through the Earth star again. Simultaneously, front, sides, backwards.
Like a toroidal field.
Like a toroidal field. And the one thing as I was walking that I shared, Chanel, was morphing between different galactic expressions. So this one expression shows up in the moment when that aspect is noticed in someone else or something else in front of us. And then morphing into, for example, the Vega consciousness in front of us. So communicating in a new way with our galactic expressions.
And also allowing for, like, what it feels like now is the readiness for the coherent oscillation between these different expressions without them fragmenting or without them distorting. Yeah, and it feels like almost this like seamless oscillation in a way that is coherent is now, I guess it comes at an individual embodiment level, but it also feels like there's almost like this wider readiness within the Earth's energetic architecture that allows for this to happen more coherently.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the
Like
process.
the capacity for it to function is there, but we still have to make sure the foundation is strong enough to be able to host the
Exactly.
recalibration and reconnection, because otherwise people are going to blow out.
Exactly that.
If they haven't done their foundational work, if they haven't strengthened their physical and energetic framework on the planet, then it's actually opening a potential for greater blowout
Exactly.
as well, simultaneously.
And through our presence and service and the awareness, that strengthening. So that when you move through the portal, through that very cosmic womb, that what I'm hearing now is that crystal heart alignment will be the recalibration to ensure when your body and when the system of any aspect of creation is ready, that will start magnetizing and aligning and recalibrating all aspects so that the blowout doesn't occur. So always to be aware of the physical process we are going through that's preparing us, because with the knowing, the preparation now is preparing us to be in our galactic expressions. Where previously it was about being aware that we are divine humans, now it is in that we are also our galactic expressions. So the way in which we prepared ourselves to be ready to receive all the light that we are, now to receive that in a different octave, so that light frequency is now also our galactic expression, and that is a different not only harmonic that's moving through, but all the different vibrations thereof. Is ensuring that when that comes through us to be experienced, grounded, and our bodies will be ready. So the discernment to know what our body needs in this moment, and it's something different than last year or the year before, because there is now a galactic expression that wants to ground through. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think more than ever, it's all of your work that you do, Leanne, about the physicality, about being in the body. It's yeah, it feels more important than ever. Because it feels like as well, there was one point where we were also looking at the ocean and we could see almost like this like anomaly in the ocean. And we knew that it was almost like this rupture that was happening across different layers of the Earth's energetic architecture, across, yeah, all these different layers and the different kind of expressions that exist on Earth and also galactically, but with everything that was happening in this space, the repair of this essential rupture and tear, where there was essentially, energy being able to leak out or code leaking out, and therefore coming into expression, not like sometimes fragmented, sometimes distorted, not in its full expression. And with everything that was done, essentially the reweaving of these ruptures and tears within the energetic architecture is therefore also allowing for this seamless oscillation between our different expressions now without these leakages, without these ruptures. And so it is more than ever, yeah, this ability now for us to really have this seamless, coherent oscillation. But as you said, the discernment and the embodiment is now more important than ever because of the access that is more readily available.
Yeah. And what was interesting to observe is that that rapture was from Earth, and it went up through all different levels and layers of our human architecture, but then also our galactic architecture, and it went right through to our highest angelic Christed expression as well. So on our highest vibrational frequency that wanted to come in that expression, there was even a tear there. And I never realized that. And now the gnosis of the importance when body work is done to prepare the body, to include that all levels and layers of our being is indeed ready, so that there's no tear or any weakness in our physical form that won't be able to hold all of that whole expression. It's almost like there's now a whole full expression that is possible. But for that to do, the body must be ready. And what I love right now is this last 2 days, my cousin has visited us and she does body work, and she's been working on my body this last 2 days. And I only now know it's been grounding all the aspects physically that wasn't ready to be with what we've walked through. And the importance of that, because I thought my body was ready, but obviously she showed up. I haven't seen her in 10 years.
Like, hello, you
Busy
cool?
aligning my tailbone, because remember that point was at the Cape Point was the tailbone entrance. So she was working on my tailbone and my coccyx, and we had the atlas, and she's on my skull, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how does this happen? And then I knew, of course.
Yeah, it's vital. The coccyx is the first cells when the sperm meets the eggs and they start dividing. Those are the cells that are at the tip of the coccyx.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that it's Cape Point is the coccyx down there.
Yeah.
And when I was living in Zambia, we were driving through long grass in the park and went into a warthog hole. And I came up and went down and smashed my coccyx and bent it sideways.
Oh.
And that was actually the start of my awakening.
Wow.
In many ways. It literally gave those cells such a shock that it started me on a journey. Like, I've worked a lot with my coccyx since then to bring it as straight as possible. But it was an impact that fractured it. So it's quite interesting. And speaking about body work, it was interesting because I went for a contact care session on my way up to Kapa Wairua. But what I didn't know is I was having a 2-hour session, not a one. So it was a contact care session, which was all structural alignment, and then a massage with energetic work that integrated it for an hour afterwards before I went up there. So that like prepared my whole system for what needed to come through. And then what landed when you were doing the work in South Africa and we were having the Guardians meeting, Since then, these glands have been really swollen and really painful. But what they're doing is they're integrating the transformation. It is just they're on overload. So it's as much as, yes, we've got to do our work and land in our embodiment and land and ground and anchor to be able to walk with the greater architecture, we also need the not just the discernment, but the communication with the consciousness of our physicality, that we can actually discuss with our guardians of the body consciousness, with the body consciousness itself, what does it need when, and what is going on when something's going on. What is actually happening? Like, if it happened to somebody else, I'd probably run off to the doctor and go, oh, dying, what's happening to me? And then I literally had a time when my whole spleen it was like about to pop. That was just days ago, 5 days ago, I think. My whole spleen was like swollen and about to burst, that I had to work on and work through. So it's quite a journey that we're on, a fascinating one and a very exciting one, and it needs to be walked quite consciously with a lot of intuition and integrity and deep listening on the way.
Yeah. And so many years ago, I also fell and I broke my jaw and I dislocated and my hips went completely out of alignment. And there was a lot of work that was done also that also started my embodiment process those many years ago, which was about 25 years ago when that fall happened. And many works has been done over this 25 years, but it was only this last 2 days that my cousin picked up on those places again, that she said the core of it wasn't yet back into alignment, which she's now done. And what was more beautiful is as she was going through it, she was also doing muscular release, the fascia release in the different places for the full bone alignment and ultimate healing to be complete. There was this awareness. She said, this is all the final points through the different places in the body. So she also works energetically and physically, both with bones and with muscles. And I just realized how blessed. And there was a lot that she worked on the feet with the different aspects that guided her to the places, and then also the energetic work. What exactly is it? What layer of my specific evolution are we on right now? And I just realized how important that was to really ground and complete the grounding, and also now through the sharing thereof, and the importance of that.
Yeah.
The importance of that.
It is, and it's so funny because Carl, who I go to here, his practice is called muscle and bone, because lots of people work with muscles or lots of work with bone, but we actually need the integration and the understanding of the fascia and the nervous system and the energy flows and the meridians to be able to realign and recalibrate into our optimal functioning capacity. Yeah.
And the importance of, I remember when others they just did what they needed to do from a Cairo and all those perspectives. What she did is she told me what she was busy with. I'm here at the spleen now. This is what's going on. This is what I'm doing. This is where it's now. And I just realized how important it was for my human self to hear all of that, walking me through what was done. So it's almost like being conscious aware now of everything that was done, and the importance of that to bring this soothing almost to my human self, knowing that it's okay. This all of this energy can move through you. You're strong enough, and the importance of taking care, because we also worked on the lymphatic system that was blocked and what needed to be drained through, and we needed to do it from my feet up. Also interesting for the energy to move then. And just to move from what I haven't mentioned earlier is, while I was standing on that rock with alignment from the earth to the soul star, through all the different levels and layers into the cosmic architecture, there was also this awareness at the coccyx
Coccyx.
is there's a original cell that I became aware of, and it took me back to the original cell back at Cape Point as well. So there where we were in some moments in the original architecture. And then when I came back to Hunklip with the sun setting, that cell came into my awareness again. And as that trinitized mother, father, child presence was there, I saw how that then, when that then is completely in full and original consciousness of the original creation of its intention and the full gnosis of the sovereignty of that, only then that then becomes 2 and 4 and 8, because there was awareness of 8 original cells there at the bottom of Gaia, and also for me but it's just above the coccyx bone. There's somewhere there's these 8 cells, and then it came to my awareness, and I never knew this, that those original 8 cells stays in all our fields throughout our physical lifetime, and that continuously weaving and seeing that it's at the bottom of the spine, how all of that continuously ground through that which we are grounding through all of our fields as we receive our light and move through our individual architectures, and also that of our planetary body. And then how all our galactic expressions are also now grounded there. So that the original intention of our galactic expressions was always there. That's what I'm hearing now. It was always there, just dormant into the readiness of the full, it's like flowing together as one, becoming one. And then that goes through the trinitized flow up through the spinal fluid and through all the bones. And as it moves through all our bones, then through all our organs, muscles, and all the different systems within our physical expressions, grounding and anchoring that in. And as we now do something individually, collectively, also grounding that into our planetary sphere. I'm just seeing that the same is happening in the architecture of Gaia, which it happened through first, and then we get to experience that. Yeah.
I can see how this walk and weaving is supporting the mass awakening of consciousness of humanity on the planet, because there are starseeds who know they're starseeds, and there's other starseeds that don't know or have forgotten that they're starseeds. But with the energetics that have now shifted on the planet, they're going to remember quite quickly.
Yeah.
Their origin, and this is going to support that mass awakening that we're expecting now to begin unfolding.
Yeah, and it feels like actually another important piece to just bring here, which also became aware to us when we were doing this walk, was the shifting in time. And the shift that was happening. So as we were doing this walk, and we knew before that we were doing this walk, that there was something to do with the shifting of time and the coding structure that exists for how we experience time. And I think we could all kind of feel the last couple of months, I don't know, that we've been in this like weird relationship with time. But as we were doing this walk as well, and all of this was happening, this kind of piece kind of clicked in as well with all of this that is now more accessible and more coherent within the Earth's energetic architecture. It's also the almost like switching over of like code base of time, that switching from this more kind of linear expression to this more kind of fluid expression, because as we're able to now oscillate more seamlessly between these various expressions, this the relationship that we have with time now also needs to shift, and the energetic architecture for how we go about doing that needs to be um, updated as well. And this is, yeah, so it feels like as we were doing this walk, it was almost like the reinstating of the original unfolding of time, that will then change the way that we are in relationship with time and how we experience that. And that just feels like it's important to share.
Supporting us to remember to live outside of time. It's useful if we need to make a meeting by this, but otherwise, it's time to reside outside of time.
Deep resonance,
Yeah.
just grounding that through, sure. And also, as we give expression, it's no longer necessary to refer to my Syrian aspect or my Palladian aspect or my, it is now becoming one seamless expression of who we are. As that is now all integrated. So what I've just saw is all this galactic expressions again becoming one. It's almost like I want to just make sure we know it's all one. It's now grounded. It's grounded through Gaia, and therefore allowing us to have this grounded experience. And they're no longer standing out there. As we viewed them there at Cape Point here, they're no longer there. They're now inside. And we are one expression as a conglomerate. I don't know what's the word. When a lot comes together, they
It's
become one.
consolidating.
Convergence point. I'm hearing convergence point, like a.
Yeah. In the center of all centers, there's only one cosmic crystal heart. And all those expressions is now, in this convergence place and space outside of time.
And if you look at it with our evolution of Homo galacticus, it's not Homo galactic Sirius, Homo galactic Pleiadian. It's like Homo galacticus is the unification of our galactic aspects, which is required for us to land and anchor through Homo universalis and our universal consciousness, because that is in unified consciousness. It's not in separation and pieces.
And a sentence started with the word that came up was to honor that it once was Homo sapiens. And that is what has transformed to Homo luminous. And that is what has transformed to Homo galacticus. And that is the integration of those three as now grounded and opening into the possibility of Homo universalis moving through all. And it's the first time probably in 10 years that I heard the word Homo sapiens come up. And it was just honoring where it all started, all those 675 million years ago, when it was a singular cellular experience that has evolved through all of those millions of years. And then equally, as we are in our embodied galactic expression, the galactic expression of also the animals, plants, minerals, and crystals, and all the elements are also now recalibrating. So I'm also seeing this convergence points of the recalibration of all of them as well, so that that becomes their expression. So when we look at any one of those plants, animals, minerals, crystals, or the elements we are surrounded by, to also look at them through our galactic expression, knowing that they're also in the process of have been transfigured and transformed into that expressions. And as we do so, we are all supporting each other on all those aspects of creation to ground this, to live this as a felt experience for Gaia. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's probably the perfect place to come to completion in today. So, ladies from the Cape, how are your holidays this sacred season? They have turned into very holy days indeed. Thank you for your walk, your work, your weaving, and for inviting myself and the rest of us into this sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for being here for us, for being here for each other, and for being in the crystal heart of the cosmos. Thank you.
Wow, and
Yeah.
remember, we've still got another birth canal to go in March equinox before the birth canal. So
There we
hang
go
in there,
again.
ladies, you're doing great.
Wow. Wow. No,
Deep
thank you
love
so
and
much.
gratitude
Yeah, thank you so much.
to you
This-
both, to Africa, South Africa, and the Cape and Cape
Mm,
Point.
Deep honoring for the whole process.
Yeah,
yeah.
and for all who may journey and share this with us. Until next we may meet.
Mm.